One of the most common mistakes I see in people pursuing QLA is they jump the steps. They want to go ahead and get an acquisition. They say, well, what harm could it do to talk to sellers? What harm could it do to talk to banks? What harm could it do to talk to professionals before they've put the foundation in place? So the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out an industry, and ideally what you want to do is figure out what you're going to do different, be able to explain why it's important to you. And as one CEO said, unless you can tell me why the world is a better place because of your great idea, I don't want to hear anymore. Now, you're probably not going to hear that last question, but the first two, what are you going to do differently? And why is this important to you? Especially the why is very important when you go to secure board of directors for your dream team. Which brings you to step two. Once you have the idea and you can explain it succinctly, and you ought to go back over Selling DeVito to understand how to talk to big hitters. Selling DeVito, VITO, great book on talking to executives. But once you have done that and you're comfortable with that, you want to reach out and build your board of directors. Those are the people who give you the credibility and experience that you probably don't have. So go ahead and do that, certainly. You want a chairman, you want some industry experts, you want a legal non-executive director and an accounting non-executive director, at least as your start. You may put some other people on that board. But understand, again, these are non-executive positions, 6, 8, 10 hours a month. These are not full-time jobs. Once you've done that, you may want to put together a short executive summary that doesn't share all your secret sauce, but particularly highlights the bios of who you have, what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it. The broad strokes, not tons of detail. Then you're going to want to go after professionals, legal and accounting, and do that on a success-oriented fee, rolled fees, discounted fees if you can get them. Then go and interview financial institutions, and you want to understand, are they lending in your space? If they're lending in your space, what multiple of EBITDA or cash flow are they lending at? What are they doing with respect to their practice of lending versus the purchase price, 50%, 70%, what it is, and what their philosophy is or policy is with respect to seller financing. Oftentimes, you can have a bank count the seller financing portion or the seller equity as your equity in the deal. And then you want to certainly be armed with that information, going out, reaching out to businesses which are not for sale, talking to those owners. Ideally, if they're older, you can work a retirement program essentially for them, and seller finance works great for that. So that's essentially the program. Remember, the last step, once you've done all of those things and you've acquired a business, you actually have to run that business. And for many people, that's the hardest step. So lean on your dream team. Get qualified operators in there. Get a qualified CEO if you're at that stage. That's probably not you if you're just starting out, but go ahead and do that. But following those steps are critical. And most people want to just jump ahead, and that oftentimes represents a real problem for them. So those are the steps. If you've got any question about that, I did a deep dive boot camp on that, brucewhipple.com/deep dive boot camp, where you can get that as well. So certainly remember that. Follow the steps. Treat them like steps going up to hopefully your end result. So one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time, and you'll be much more successful if you end up doing that rather than jumping through steps. The steps are there for a reason. Dan Pena, when he created the QLA methodology in 1993, laid that out well, and those steps haven't changed. Some of the technology's changed, certainly since 1993, but the steps Dan outlined, still the steps.